Hello and welcome back to World 360. What is the 10-nation force led by the US that seeks to protect ships in the Red Sea? Why is the UK Prime Minister being linked to a scandal involving lies, corruption, and PPE equipment? We answer these and more in today's episode. So, first up, the 10-nation force that has been set up by the US to protect shipping in the Red Sea. Now, before I get into what this force is, let's assess the strategic location of the Red Sea. Now, the Red Sea is a major shipping route that connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Indian Ocean via the Suez Canal. As you can see, this is a narrow sea with Africa to its west and Gulf countries to its east. If we look south of the Red Sea, we find the Bab el-Mandeb Strait off the coast of Yemen. Nearly 10% of all oil traded at sea passes through it, and an estimated $1 trillion in goods moves through this strait annually. But as we know, Yemen is a war-torn country, and some areas are controlled by a group of Iran-backed rebels known as the Houthis. Iran is an important factor here, and I want you to remember it because Iran not only backs the Houthis, but Hamas too, the Palestinian militant group that is currently at war with Israel. Ever since Israel launched its military operation in Gaza against Hamas, the Houthis in Yemen have expressed their support for Hamas, and they are now attacking ships in the Red Sea in protest of Israel's military offensive against Hamas in Gaza. If you recall, in late November, Israel claimed that a cargo ship sailing from Turkey to India was hijacked by Houthis in the Red Sea. Now, this came days after a Houthi spokesperson said the group would target all ships owned or operated by Israeli companies or carrying the Israeli flag. Now, the tense situation in the Red Sea has scared off several companies, including British oil giant BP, which has paused all Red Sea shipments in the wake of these attacks. In a bid to counter this, the US announced on Monday the launch of Operation Prosperity Guardian, which aims to bring together 10 nations to ensure security in the Red Sea. These countries include the US, UK, Bahrain, Canada, France, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Seychelles, Spain, and more. Now, some of the countries in this military coalition will conduct joint patrols, while others are expected to provide much-needed intelligence support about the Red Sea. Already, 3 US warships, the USS Carney, the USS Stetham, and the USS Mason, have been moving through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait daily to help deter attacks from the Houthis. Now, for our second topic, we're looking at why UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has been linked to a major scandal in the UK involving lies, corruption, and PPE equipment. But before we explain how this exactly happened, we need to look at who. Specifically, who is Michelle Mone? Now, Michelle Mone is a Scottish businesswoman, baroness, and currently a member of the UK House of Lords. For years, she and her husband denied that they had links to PPE MedPro, a company that secured more than £200 million in government contracts to supply face masks and surgical gowns to the British public during the COVID-19 pandemic. She also did not declare this company on her Lord's Register of Interests, in which any member of the UK Parliament must publicly declare any private interests which may pose a conflict of interest with their public duties. Last year, UK authorities began an investigation into PPE MedPro's offices and suspected criminal offences committed in the procurement of government contracts. But this year, for the first time, Michelle Mone and her husband admitted in media interviews that they were in fact involved with the company. In a BBC interview on Sunday, Michelle Mone said she had lied to the press about her connection to PPE MedPro, which made millions of pounds in profits over PPE contracts. Now, we need to look at this entire scandal in the context of the Boris Johnson administration, which ultimately saw its downfall due to a party that was held during the pandemic. Let's not forget that Rishi Sunak was also involved in the Partygate scandal. Already, the British public were upset over lawmakers partying, while the rest of the country had to observe strict social distancing rules, and hospitals were under immense pressure to save people from the deadly virus. Now, this latest scandal involving Michelle Mone has only added fuel to the fire because once again, it shows how those in power took advantage of a serious health emergency. Rishi Sunak has now become embroiled in the scandal due to fresh claims by Michelle Mone. Earlier this week, the UK Prime Minister said his government was taking the case incredibly seriously. In response, Mone tweeted, "What is Rishi Sunak talking about? I was honest with the Cabinet Office, the government and the NHS in my dealings with them. They all knew about my involvement from the very beginning. How will Rishi Sunak tackle this latest scandal? Well, if you remember in 2020, there were already concerns about him holding shares in vaccine manufacturer Moderna. Will more skeletons come out of the closet? For our last topic, we're looking at a Jewish journalist who received a German literary prize despite penning a controversial article in The New Yorker recently. I'm talking about Russian-American activist and writer Masha Gessen, who has written extensively on LGBTQ rights as well as German history and identifies as non-binary. On Saturday, the journalist received a German literary prize known as the Hannah Arendt Prize for Political Thought, which is named after one of the most influential political theorists of the 20th century. But Gessen did not win the prize with the pomp and show that was expected. In fact, the prize ceremony was delayed and scaled down due to Gessen's recent article in The New Yorker that caused a stir. Let's not forget that 56-year-old Gessen, who was born Jewish in the Soviet Union, has been a vocal critic of Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump and is critical of Israel's treatment of Palestinians. Now, on 9th December, The New Yorker published Gessen's essay, In the Shadow of the Holocaust, How the Politics of Memory in Europe Obscures What We See in Israel and Gaza Today. In this essay, Gessen attempts to argue that the world often places the Holocaust outside of history and refuses to learn from it. One particular line from the essay is what created this controversy. Gaza has been a hyper-densely populated, impoverished, walled-in compound where only a small fraction of the population had the right to leave for even a short amount of time. In other words, a ghetto. Not like the Jewish ghetto in Venice or an inner-city ghetto in America, but like a Jewish ghetto in an Eastern European country occupied by Nazi Germany. Ultimately, Gessen's comparison of Gaza with a Jewish ghetto in Nazi Germany raised alarm bells. But in their speech, while accepting the literary prize, Gessen questioned why in Germany, as well as in many parts of the Western world, are you not allowed to compare anything to the Holocaust? They argued why US lawmakers like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez were able to describe migrant detention facilities on the US-Mexico border as concentration camps. In Gessen's acceptance speech, they further argue that a space for comparisons to the Holocaust is needed in order to prevent the world from repeating the Holocaust. In the description of this video, we have linked Gessen's essay as well as their speech during the prize ceremony should you want to read those in full. Thank you so much for watching. This is Pia Krishnkutti for ThePrint.